Welcome back. Well, despite the French reaction, the dust will settle on this historic trilateral partnership between Australia, the UK and the US. But it's still not known who really drove the federal government to torpedo Malcolm Turnbull's dud project and take up state-of-the-art nuclear submarines. Was it the Prime Minister, who'd continually reported that the $90 million diesel build was on track and the contract would be honoured? Or was it one of his AUKUS partners who wanted Australia to ditch the old and bring in the new? We don't know that yet, but one thing is for sure. For 8 long years, there's been a chorus of critics calling for the government to bite the bullet and go nuclear. One of those voices has been the well-researched and former submariner, South Australian Senator Rex Patrick. Described by many as Inspector Rex, the Senator knows both the diesel and nuclear submarines like no other politician. I caught up with the Senator earlier in the week. Rex Patrick, thank you so much for your time.
You're most welcome, Chris.
Well, you'd be a happy former submariner. We've ditched the French diesel sub project for the real deal.
Yeah, look, I'm very comfortable with the government's decision to pull the shutters down on this project. It was a project that was $40 billion over budget. It was running late. It was likely to not deliver us a regionally superior submarine, and it certainly wasn't meeting industry expectations. My only regret in this decision is that it's taken so long to get to this place.
But the government just ploughed on with this soon-to-be obsolete project, despite all the advice from people like you, JCAR boss, the late Gary Johnston, and many other experts.
Yeah, look, it was a project that was laden with risk. We had no control over things like costs because we, very early on in the piece, basically down-selected to one player, a commercial player, and at that point in time, we lost all the leverage that we needed. Again, it's a good decision that the government's made, just one that is late. We must remember that this is a failed project. I just hope we don't jump from the frying pan into the fire.
Explain to my viewers why there is simply no comparison between nuclear-powered and a diesel retrofitted sub. You've been on both, right?
I have, and look, there are good things about nuclear-powered submarines, and there are some areas where they don't do as well as conventional submarines, but overall, they're a very capable machine. One of the things that is most dominant in relation to a nuclear-powered submarine is that infinite energy source that is provided by way of the reactor. That allows a submarine to go down to a couple hundred metres, spin the propellers up to 30 knots, and get to places quickly. Often we see nuclear submarines arriving on scene. In fact, you don't see them because they arrive secretly, but they appear on scene from a military perspective very early on in the piece, well before other forces arrive, and they can basically build up a picture of what's going on. Incredibly capable. Because they're larger, they carry more weapons, they carry more sensors, generally can stay out again for longer because it's not just the energy source, it's about how much food you can store as well to keep the crew going. There are a couple of areas where nuclear submarines don't do quite as well. There are circumstances where a conventional submarine can be quieter when it's running on batteries or something like a fuel cell. And the other area where conventional submarines generally do better, and this is because they're normally smaller, is in shallow water where manoeuvrability is required. It's like anything. You can find a something like a Ferrari and think it's the best car in the world until you decide to take it off road, and then it's by no means the best car in the world. So, horses for courses.
It didn't take long, Rex, for the Greens to say they were scared, saying the subs will be floating Chernobyls.
Again, I'm the only parliamentarian that's been to sea on a nuclear-powered submarine and slept for days nearby a reactor. What I will say is this. I felt very, very safe in a nuclear submarine being operated by the US Navy. Now, that's an important statement because we have some really big challenges ahead. Just because we get their boats which are safe, if we don't get it right, then we will potentially run into problems. And so it's really important that we proceed with great diligence from here on in.